DDRC members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate time.
Ms. Branham,
Here.
Mr. Broom,
Here.
Mr. Dinkins,
Here.
Mr. Greenberg, Ms. Jaco,
Here.
Mr. McGuire, Mr. Salibi,
Here.
and Mr. Wolf has not made it, but we have quorum.
Great. In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the DDRC or staff regarding request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when the time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
We have one case that was withdrawn, 431 to 433 Waccamaw Avenue, a request for design approval for exterior changes in the Wales Garden Architectural Conservation District.
The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please read the consent agenda?
Certainly. Our consent agenda is 2310 to 2312 Sumter Street, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill in the Cottontown Bellevue Architectural Conservation District. 1619 Sumter Street, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill for a National Register structure. 2924 Kershaw Street, request for a certificate of design approval for an addition in the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District. 800, 803, 829 Richland Street, the venues at Arsenal Hill, which is a request for a certificate of design approval for site improvements and new construction for an individual landmark in the Governor's Mansion Protection Area. And the last is 2701 Clark Street, a request for design approval for new construction in the Earlwood Protection Area A.
Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as presented here and also the September minutes?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda and the September minutes.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Jaco,
Yes.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham,
Yes.
Mr. Dinkins,
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg, Mr. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Salibi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we move to the regular agenda. First case.
This is 1315 Woodrow Street.
It's a request for certificate of design approval for exterior changes, specifically window replacement in the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. This is a circa 1940s one-story brick veneer house. It features a cross-gable roof, enclosed front porch, and original 3/1 wood windows. The applicant is requesting wholesale replacement of the original windows with 3/1 Fibrex windows with exterior muntins. Windows on the front and sides are considered visible from the right-of-way and require review for any proposed changes. The principles for windows state, windows are a significant character-defining feature of any structure. They are like a piece of good furniture. Original windows were constructed so that individual components could be repaired instead of requiring an entire new unit if one piece breaks or rots. Staff has evaluated the visible windows and has found no areas of deterioration that are not repairable. Staff has found no examples in this or other architectural conservation districts where wholesale replacement of original windows was approved. The guidelines state, when technically and economically feasible, repair of deteriorated or damaged windows shall be preferred over replacement. Repair of the windows is both technically and economically feasible. A quote for repair was considerably cheaper than the quote for wholesale window replacement. The quote for full restoration includes full window restoration, which would make all original windows fully operable again. And I've included, given you each a copy of the quote for repair and the quote for the replacement windows to show you those items that would be included for each. For staff recommendations, staff finds that the request for wholesale window replacement at 1315 Woodrow Street is not in keeping with sections 5.2 of the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District Design Guidelines and recommends denial of this request. And I have a couple photos. Where am I pointing this? There. Just to show you the windows themselves. They have screens in front of them, and you can see there's some paint buildup, which is typical for windows of this age. Oops. Sorry. And I believe the applicant is here to speak.
Hi,
I'm Mary Ellen Palker, and I live at 1315 Woodrow Street.
and do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Of course. I'm 63 years old, and next week I'll be 64. I want to replace the existing windows in my home with new windows of the same design. The appearance of my house will remain the same. The new windows have 3 vertical panes on the top and 1 large pane on the bottom, just like the ones that are there now. The new windows will be double paned and more energy efficient. They will be easier for me to open and close and easier to clean. I am not trying to change the way my house looks. I like the way it looks. That is why the new windows will be the same style and size as the old windows. According to the estimate I received from Stacy Ritchie, the repair and restoration of the existing windows could not begin until January of 2023 and would take 12 to 14 months. While the windows were being worked on, in the space each window occupied would be filled with plywood. There would be no additional energy efficiency from double pane glass, and cleaning, especially outside, would be very difficult. I hope you will approve the replacement of the windows in my home. And when the lady who did the estimate for the restoration, she only looked at 2 windows, and she looked at one that I'm not planning on replacing and one that I asked her to look at. But I really don't think her estimate, because some of the windows are in very poor repair, was very thorough. Her examination was not thorough.
So let me just make sure, we have to make sure whoever's speaking at the time. Let me ask that right there with the applicant, does any commissioner have any questions of the applicant before we move on?
Have you considered potentially replacing the ones that just aren't visible from the street?
5 windows across the back, 5 windows across the back of my house were replaced. 2 in a guest bedroom, 2 in my bedroom, and 1 in the master bathroom. And those photos Rachel took, she and Amy came out to look at them and see what the windows looked like installed.
The staff, I mean, do you feel like all the rest are visible from the street?
That was my feeling when we went out there. The only thing that's really hiding them is a little bit of like plants, which we can't really use as saying they're not visible. And just to be clear, the window replacements that the company makes would be appropriate for windows that were beyond repair. The quality of them is what we would look for a replacement window when that is applicable towards Skyline.
Commissioner Deakins, anything else? You good?
I'm good.
Right at the moment, okay.
So just so I'm clear, how many are we talking about replacing now?
13,
13 additional ones,
yes.
in addition to the 5 that were replaced already
Right,
in the
there were
back?
18 to start with. 2 of the windows lead into the enclosed porch, so they wouldn't be replaced. The windows on the sides, like to clean from outside, you would need a large ladder, especially on the left side of the home when you're looking at it from the street. That side, you'd probably need a 12 or 15-foot ladder to clean the windows. And the house on that side is much closer to my home than the house on the other side where my driveway is.
So how many, excuse me. So how many are in this complete disrepair that you're speaking of that perhaps our staff didn't see?
The worst ones? Two are very bad. One was, unless you really looked, it was filled with epoxy or caulk. It was filled with caulk, and then metal was wrapped around it. I didn't know it when I bought the house, but then it was all painted to look like the original window. And that's a window either in the dining room or the kitchen. It's on the driveway side. And that's supposed to be the worst window. Then in the front bedroom, there's a window that has a large chunk that you can see is missing from the inside. And if you go outside, on the other side, there's a large chunk that you can see is missing from the outside. And Stacy Ritchie said she would be repairing that window with epoxy. That was the only window that she examined that was one that I would replace.
And that's allowable, is that correct, staff? If it's beyond, well, are you saying it's beyond repair and that she would recommend
Well,
replacement?
she said she would fix it with epoxy, and that's not really original materials either, is what I'm saying. She said she could fix it with epoxy. The
Yes,
first
that's a
one,
common repair for
So
historic
it is
windows.
Right.
fixable.
Yeah.
And just for my own clarification, but none of these windows have already been, these are all still, all original windows, right, staff? Okay.
The one
yeah.
she's talking about,
the
yes.
13 remaining windows, yes.
I mean, original as in what's there to the house, yes, okay, right, okay.
We've got cost estimates of replacing, or a wholesale replacement, and then repair of the existing windows. Have you looked at replacing the 13 windows visible from the right-of-way with windows of similar material? Or would that be cost prohibitive? Is that an
That
option,
would be-
staff?
Yeah, that would be much more expensive. Probably 50% more.
And it's not something we would advise anyway, because older windows of this age have wood that is so dense because the trees were allowed to mature for such a time that it's insect and moisture resistant. And I've had window manufacturers tell me in the last 3 years that any windows they sell, even wood windows made of mahogany, are not of the quality that wood windows are of this age, if that helps at all.
They're more prone to rot these days.
Yeah. Yes.
They're not replacing the window frame or the window sills, except for that one that's already like rotted. They're only replacing the moving part of the window, the upper and the lower moving parts of the window, nothing else.
The sashes. The sashes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
So I know that you mentioned that one of the downsides to not being able to replace them wholesale is the long time it was going to take, if I can, I think you said it would take longer, 12 months or something.
12 to 14 months was her estimate, yes.
But that
She would only
that-
do like 1 or 2 at a time.
I was going to say, I hope that means that she would only do a few at a time that have plywood up for that
Right.
period of time.
Yeah.
But just wanted to clarify that it wasn't like we were going to we weren't going to plywood up every window in your
Right.
house
No,
until.
I don't think that's what she
until-
intended. I think it was
Right.
like 1 or
It
2
would
at a
be
time.
phased. Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess a question for staff and for the owner. In looking at the house from the front, and I can't find any record, but have there been any modifications to the front that kind of looked like it was enclosed or?
Yeah, the front porch was enclosed a while back.
So there are windows there now. Are those included in these 13?
Which windows?
Okay.
I think he's asking if there was a
It looked,
change to the original windows when that was
it
done.
looks like, right, on
Yeah,
the
the
front
porch is
exterior.
enclosed, but it was like that when I bought it. I bought the house in March of 2019, and it was just the way it is.
So these are not included in the 13?
No.
The one on the front, but they are newer. I mean, windows.
The enclosure
Yes.
is newer, yes. There are 2 windows on the porch, like she said, that are original windows, but she's not asking to replace those.
No, those aren't to the outside.
Did you have someone else that you wanted to
Yes.
present some information? All right, if the individual could come up and state your name, and do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
My name's Logan Hinesley, representative of Renewal by Anderson, and I state to tell the truth.
Okay.
Because my mama raised me.
Yeah, make sure you speak in the
sorry.
microphone.
Normally they tell me I'm too loud, so. I think that we have the basic information to answer the question about the windows on the front of the home. Those are door panels. Those door panels are about 7 or 8 years old that are not original to the home. The windows in question are the old wood windows. As stated previously, the windows in the home are they're in different states of disrepair. So the window in the driveway side that, I had my timer set too.
Y'all had a total of 10 minutes if,
Oh,
would you?
so have we passed that with all the banter? Okay, all right. Did you want to show us something?
Yeah, do you
Why
mind?
don't you just show it real
Yep.
quick? Yeah.
So one of the things so Anderson, obviously the oldest,
Yeah.
largest window manufacturer in the country. To the lady's point, is it okay if I said something here?
Yeah.
Understood 30 years ago that replacing wood windows with wood today was a bad idea. So we developed a wood composite material you can see here, and this is what we use to replace historic windows all across the country. I personally my parents' home was built in the 1800s and has this window. Ideally, what we look for in a historic window are 2 very simple things. One, slope sills. The window's designed and engineered for us to be able to remove just the exterior stop on the window, keep all of the exterior brick mold, your sill noses, your sills, your jambs, all your exterior trim. Typically with window replacement, what you see is a flat sill sits on top, you get a big bulky frame, lots of metal cladding goes around it, which hides the wood. To the staff's recommendation, after spending some time with them, this window allows us to keep exterior stop, custom size the window to fit right back into the opening. The slope sill is designed to be custom to every slope that she currently has, so it's right where her existing slope does, wood. And then on the outside here, this is where your stop would be, slides and sits against the interior stop. So if you look here, this is where that interior stop would be. So keep all the original wood. And really what we're talking about replacing are the sashes. And what we are, is it wood? Or are we replacing wood with wood? No, for the exact same reason that they stated you shouldn't, because a wood window today will rot. This is a material that's designed not to rot, specifically for this. So, but what it does allow us to do, it allows us to do the things that make a wood window look like a wood window. Mortise and tenon joinery, slope sills, 2 1/4 inch head rails, the double, the original double hung sash option. It actually has the ropes, the block and tackle system built into it. So this window is designed to not only walk, talk, feel like a wood window, but it functions in those aspects like a wood window.
Let me check in now. I gave that because I felt like we had discussion and it went into their time. So
Yeah,
we're
you're-
good?
you're-
Okay.
you're
All right.
correct.
All right, I was just making sure. All right, good.
I think the last thing that I would point out is, even with the window allows us, we did full divided light. Yep. So it allows us even to put the full divided light going in there. So from the street, from the road, the layman wouldn't know that it wasn't an original window. Our goal is really the same as the commission's, and that is to keep as much of the original window opening intact, but at the same time be able to provide a solution for a homeowner that's energy efficient, maintenance free, and continues to keep the original historic look of the home. And when we started this project with Maryland, that was her biggest concern, was keeping the look as close as possible. Did I answer any questions for you?
Any commissioner have any question at this point? Okay, thank you. We will now hear comments from the public.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Martha Fowler. I serve on the Executive Committee for the Melrose Neighborhood Association, and Josh Shelton asked me to read a letter from him. He is the president of our Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
After I read his, I would like to speak myself.
Okay, great. And you stated your name, so you just swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. From Josh Shelton. I'm writing in regard to the 1315 Woodrow Street. Our neighborhood association does not support the removal change of the windows. We find that the request for these exterior changes violates the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District's design guidelines. Our neighborhood desires that the windows be repaired and restored so that it's in keeping with our guidelines and fits in with the unique character of our neighborhood, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Historic Melrose Neighborhood Association requests that you reject this submission and have the applicants work with the city preservation staff to create a window restoration plan that is in keeping with our guidelines. Joshua Shelton, President, Historic Melrose Neighborhood Association, and he gives his phone number if you want to call him. Now I would like to speak for myself. I live in one of the historic houses. My house is about 110 years old. It was built in 1917. I have absolutely beautiful windows, and I maintain them because that's what you have to do when you have an old piece of property that's of quality. When you walk into my front rooms, my living room and my dining room, the sun that comes through those wavy glass windows is like crystal. It's beautiful. When you change the character of a home by taking away that quality, you can't put it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. I do a lot of historic preservation. I'm responsible for some of the properties that are on the 1600 block of Main Street, which is the gem of our city for historic preservation. Pay attention to what you keep. Hold on to things and value them. I just can't speak highly enough for the things that we have in Melrose and our historic properties that we take care of. Once they're gone, they're gone. I have to.
Ma'am, I just want to say, I want to make sure, are we, staff, good? Okay. making sure.
May I say?
Yeah.
Although
I'm
I
thrown
suppose
off.
that Ms. Fowler might have another minute since she read
Okay.
for Mr. Shelton.
No, right, for two different, and I apologize, I just want to make sure when I
That's okay.
hear dings over there, but,
Well, I want to speak because I'm not chiding y'all, but for the last several years, this commission has allowed some changes that went completely opposite our guidelines. This commission, and I'm not saying y'all because most of y'all weren't on this commission, they have allowed vinyl siding. They have painted brick houses. Now we want to change windows. Each time you do that, you take away a facet in our community that you can't build back. We have had wonderful situations where people have taken advantage of the Bailey Bill, which this city has embraced, that has changed properties from the value of $180,000 to $650,000 in a 6-month period. When you take those facets away, they're gone for good. If you paint a red brick house that has beautiful granite and gold brick detail and you paint it white, it's gone for good. You can't get it back. And that's the character of Melrose. And I just beseech you to pay attention to the guidelines that we not only we voted for, and we voted to uphold them just 3 years ago. And since then, COVID has happened and things have happened, and we've not been able to come in and speak. It floored me when I was sitting at home in a meeting and DDRC approved vinyl siding. Really? Vinyl siding? I don't get it. But please value our community because our community is really special. And if you don't know Melrose, it's really a cool neighborhood, and we have so many great things that happen, and we ask you to please help us uphold what we wrote, we got funded, we upheld, and we want to keep.
well,
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Staff, what I'll just have, when the time is up, why don't you just say something, since I noticed we don't have the lights like we did last time, so that threw me off a little bit too. All right, sorry. Public comments? My official timekeeper over there, please. So, please state your
Good
name.
afternoon. My name is John Shearer. I'm the Director of Preservation for Historic Columbia. Everything I say will be the truth. I'm also a property owner in Melrose Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District, a district that was established by that community and is upheld by that community, has been upheld by that community with the coordination of efforts with the DDRC over the past several years. I bought that property in 2007, and since that time, performed a tremendous amount of work on that property, up to and including new construction that involved very high quality replacement windows, or I shouldn't say replacement windows, but new construction windows on an attic that was turned into 3 rooms. Since that time, one of those windows has failed, and that company is no longer in business. But all of the original windows that I personally rehabilitated, that I restored in situ without having to take them out, all of those are fine. And they cost me a lot less than any of the new construction. I'm not knocking the new construction windows, with the exception of the fact that there are things that can be done to retain the historic fabric in these buildings without having to spend a tremendous amount of money, quite frankly. The guidelines are there. We know what they are. People who buy into the neighborhood know what they are. Yes, there are examples and there are instances in which materials have failed, but they can be replaced. Historic windows are a lot easier to fix than complete wholesale replacement. As far as the energy efficiency, there's not enough time in my life to actually see any kind of energy efficiency realized in window replacement. If I want energy efficiency, I will work on insulation in the attic and so forth, or interior storms if you want to go that route. Time's up. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Just please state your name, and do you swear to tell
I'm
the truth?
Hugh Jacobs. I'm Barry Allen's next-door neighbor, and I've been a member, I've been in
And do you swear to
Melrose.
tell the truth?
Pardon?
Do you
I swear.
Okay, thank you.
I've been Melrose is the best neighborhood in Columbia, and I voted for the Historical Preservation District back when we did, and I have no problems with any of that at all. But like Martha said, a block away, a brick house just got painted a month ago. Well, you can see that, and I personally have no problem with that. But I do know we're in a historical district, and apparently I thought that was not allowed. Now, you can ride down Melrose or Woodrow Street, and you can obviously see that house painted. But one side of Mary Ellen's house, you can't see at all, where the windows would be, and from the street, really. And then there's the other side. They divided her lot into two when she bought that house, and they built a house, which I'm glad to have, behind hers. But when they applied for changes on the architectural styling of their house, they were given a waiver because they weren't really considered they were on the edge of the Melrose neighborhood. So I'm going, well, does that mean that we're on the edge of the Melrose neighborhood? Because it's Mary Ellen's backyard where this house was built, on Melrose Street. So I'm just saying, I have no problem with any of the things that the historical designation does and keeps us from doing in our houses, but I just think it needs to be applied equally. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to replace my windows probably, but Mary Ellen's a great neighbor, and I'm just here for that. And I love Melrose, and I'm all for the historical preservation part of Melrose, and there are a lot of people that have done wonderful things for Melrose. I'm sure you know Martha, so
Pardon me,
thank you.
sir. That was 2 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Any other members from the public? Because I had a couple clarifications from staff. So this house property is in the Melrose district? Just verifying?
Yes.
Okay. And what is visible?
So when staff went out there, my assessment was that both sides were visible.
Okay.
And I'm happy to look at it. If the one window is really not repairable and rotten, I'm happy to look at that again. But I just didn't notice anything when I was out there the last time that would require
Yeah.
full replacement.
Well, I mean, I've seen presentations that Ms. Ritchie has done in her work, so I have confidence that she knows what she's recommending. Okay. Does the applicant has an opportunity, if you have any responses, you want to, any response to what you've heard here from the public? Okay, all right. Any questions, follow-up from commissioners? No? Any questions of staff? Everybody's good?
Can I make a statement?
Sure, please.
So I'd just like to make a statement that, first of all, I think Anderson windows are exceptional windows. This is not a reflection on the ability for Anderson to produce a great window. So thank you for the show and tell there that we had for a minute. But I think several people mentioned, let's stick with the guidelines and make sure we don't let this happen again and make everybody do the same thing. That came from both sides. So our job here is to indeed do that and uphold. I can't speak for the other decisions that have been made over the years that may change some things in the neighborhood, but I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you as a member of that community, but we also are here to uphold the guidelines.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, if there is no other questions or comments, I'll open up the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion,
Okay.
if we're ready. Ms. Parker, I do sympathize with you, and I understand where you're coming from. However, I don't recollect any time where in an architectural conservation district, we have allowed replacement of visible exterior windows. They're very important to the character of the neighborhood and to the conservation district, and I really wish you the best of luck, but I move to deny the request for certificate to design approval for exterior changes at 1315 Woodrow Street based on it not in keeping with Section 5.2 of the Melrose Heights and Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District Design Guidelines.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi? Yes. And Mr. Wolf? Yes. The motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Next case. Is this the one?
Yes, he's stepping out.
Okay. We have one commissioner needs to recuse. So,
This is 1525 Bull Street, or the Beverly Apartments. It's a request for a certificate of design approval for exterior changes, including a rooftop addition. This building is an individual landmark, and this property received the Bailey Bill in May 2021, which still applies. Generally, the intent for the structure is to retain the historic character of the building and to restore missing or altered components to more historically correct versions. This includes the replacement windows. These are non-original windows on the building, which will be replaced with windows to match the characteristics of the original windows. Staff's only outstanding concern with the scope involves the rooftop addition. DDRC approvals for rooftop bars and additions in the past have been based upon their placement on the roof, requiring that they are not visible or very minimally visible from the public right-of-ways. When rooftop additions are too visible, they can affect the character of the building by concentrating focus on architecture distinct from the historic building or by changing the perceived massing of the building. The proposed rooftop addition is a rectangular structure roughly centered within the mass of the building. The rooftop addition was originally proposed to be clad in hardy panel siding, which is not historically found on the building. The applicant has made some changes to the proposal with more glass, which staff has recommended, which they'll talk about in a moment. Also, there is a building that's proposed to the north. However, we can only consider the current condition for the site, as proposed development is never really certain. But regardless of that, the rooftop addition would be highly visible when viewed up Bull Street near the corner of Hampton, looking north, which is this view here. And you can see the kind of skeleton of what the footprint would be for that addition. Due to the overall visibility, staff recommends that design be modified to lessen the visual impact. Staff recommends using more glass than solid wall on the addition so that the addition may better blend with its background. Likewise, the use of glass will utilize a material that is already part of the historic building, but still allow for a design that's differentiated from the historic building as specified in the standards. Staff's recommendations. Staff finds that the project generally complies with Section 17-2.5 G6B-2 and Section 17-2.5Y of the City Ordinance and recommends granting a certificate of design approval for exterior changes with the following conditions. The rooftop addition design be modified to minimize its appearance and incorporate more glass with materials compatible with the historic structure, and final design approval, review and approval deferred to staff. Staff to review and approve configuration and materials of all proposed new windows and the front door if it cannot be repaired. Any future signage and fence or wall proposals be deferred to staff, and all other details deferred to staff. And as I said, the applicant is here and did send some revised drawings that show renderings of the addition with more glass. Staff has not seen the actual drawings yet, so can't say. But this project is also a tax credit project, which means their design also has to go through the State Historic Preservation Office, which they have not received comments on. So that's another reason staff is asking to defer that final decision to staff to work with the applicant, because we won't really know what it needs to be finally until the SHPO returns comments. So that's part of the issue.
Procedurally, though, we can move forward?
Yes,
on
yeah,
our
your
part?
decision
Okay.
is independent, but if you kind of defer the final.
Independent, but yet dependent. I mean, these are always.
But if you
yeah,
defer
right.
the final decision to me,
Right.
I can work with them, and then if there's some issue, we can bring it back to you.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Can one of the
He has the fanciest microphone, yet it doesn't, it's not on.
So can we pass a non-modified acceptance of the rooftop addition? The initial submission?
You can if you believe it meets the guidelines.
Yeah. Okay. All right, is the applicant present, or do y'all want to hear the applicant, and then maybe we can ask some questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, if we don't have drawings, I'd love to hear from the applicant
Yeah,
what he's
yeah.
proposing.
I mean, we can all just debate amongst ourselves, I'm sure. but-
Sure, I do. My name is Andrew Rogerson, representing Garvin Design Group on this project.
And do you swear to tell the truth in this
do.
proceeding?
I do.
And just make sure you speak in the microphone so we
Okay.
can hear you, okay?
I'll try to remember where these are. So we did, as Rachel mentioned, sent modified drawings that altered the rooftop addition from hardy plank clad to aluminum storefront and glass to limit the impact of those views that you've seen. So these elevations on the screen reflect that altered materiality. And we added a couple of views from those same vantage points. In the bottom right here from Bull and Taylor, enlarging that viewpoint, which, and as Rachel mentioned, this shows the proposed future construction on that corner, which may or may not happen, but is something that we're considering. And then the view from Bull and Hampton as well, with that future construction beyond. And you can see that viewpoint there with the glass facade. And as Rachel mentioned, we're still working through this with staff, as well as going through the Part 2 process with the State Historic Preservation Office. And so we're happy to work with them on any modifications that may be required based on those comments.
So you didn't have any concerns with any of the recommendations that staff provided?
We did not.
Okay.
no. Oh, and I will point out, just the roof plan, we did locate that rooftop addition as far back as we could and from each parapet in either direction. So what you see here is the minimum footprint to access that rooftop.
So I have one quick question. So are you, it's kind of hard to see in these very small images
Sure.
here. But it's all going to be glass
It
now?
will.
Okay.
That's right. Yep.
Well, thank you for doing that, Andrew,
Sure,
because I think
absolutely.
that helps solve a lot of them. But I was going to ask, too, that the hardy plank that you are putting on the rear elevation, is that proposed to be white? And are you keeping that hardy plank back there?
That will be a neutral tone. So the framing on the rear, which, let me see if I can find an elevation of that. So here you can see the before on the left and the after on the right. These were sleeping porches originally, and they were closed in over time. And so There's some wood aspects to that enclosure that we're then duplicating with hardy plank. It wasn't an original material, but over time, it's kind of adapted, and so we're just
But it'll
replacing
be
it
a
with
neutral,
in-kind.
but a neutral color as
That's
opposed to
right.
white. That was
That's
the
right.
thing that was throwing me off about that
Yes.
roof, was even though the windows are clearly going back to their original white
White, that's right.
look, but I was a little worried about the white
Stark
thing
white
on top.
panel, that's
So,
right.
yeah, appreciate you working with us on that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to get one thing clear about the rooftop. Do you have HVAC on top of the roof, or how does that work mechanical-wise?
We will have some mechanical on the roof as well. And these are intended to be private roof decks for the third floor apartments, so they're the only ones that will have access to that. And so they will have a view of some rooftop mechanical, but we'll place that, again, recessed from the parapet, so it'll be minimally visible from the street. But they'll see it obviously from the rooftop deck.
Are there rooftop units there now?
They're not, they're on the ground now, I believe.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Staff, any new comments with everything? We're good? Yeah. All right. Okay. You want to open it
No,
up?
I mean, the only thing I would say is I really haven't had the time yet to study the
Right.
drawings, so I can't make a recommendation based on these modified ones. He did he did a very good job getting these to us, but it was, last night, so
Okay.
staff thinks it's definitely an improvement. It kind of disappears a bit more, which is what we are recommending. So,
Do you want me to open it then to public?
sorry, trying to get there.
We'll now hear any comments from the public. Anybody here want to speak? Okay. If there's no other commentary, I will open it up then for a motion in a second.
I move, Madam Chair, to approve the request for certificate of design approval for 1525 Bull Street for exterior changes, that since it generally complies with Section 17-2.5 and, G6P-2 and Section 17-2.5 of the city ordinance, with the following conditions: that the rooftop addition design be modified to minimize its appearance and incorporate more glass and materials compatible with the historic structure, with final design review and approval deferred to staff. That staff review and approve the configuration materials of all proposed new windows and the front door if it cannot be repaired. Any future signage and fence/wall proposals be deferred to staff, and all other details deferred to staff.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Dinkins?
No.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf? Oh, sorry, he's recused. The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next case?
So the next case is 1200 Main Street. Y'all give me just a moment.
And I guess let's get Commissioner Wolf back up here.
So this property, also known as Number 1 Main, is, as y'all all know, situated at the corner of Main and Gervais Streets, directly across from the State House. It was designed and constructed in 1912 to 1913 and was built to house a very young Union Bank at that point in time, with speculative office space on the upper floors. It's got a very small footprint, but a powerful presence, and it was one of the first of 3 early skyscrapers in the city. So as originally constructed, the building was steel and reinforced concrete, clad in terracotta, some very elaborate terracotta panels with a lot of detail, and 1/1 wood windows. But early alterations changed that terracotta cladding, and in the 60s, glass panels covered over those in an attempt to update the building. And so it changed it from a very elaborate, beautiful, historic structure to a much more sleek, modern structure in the 60s. So it changed its character significantly. The current owners you probably have noticed they've removed a lot of the glass panels already in a start to restore the historic character of the building and to bring back the original terracotta detailing and presence of the building. So they've very carefully gone through different iterations of color for terracotta panels, for anything that has to be repaired. All of the headers on the panels were removed when the glass panels came on, so or the headers for the windows. So those all have to be replaced. And here at the bottom picture on the screen, we have the sample panel pointed to in red. That seems like a very close match with the correct dimensions, color, etc. It took a lot of work for the owners to get there, but they stuck with it. They're also removing replacement windows that came in and were smaller in size, and they're going back with correctly sized windows with a 1/1 configuration and coming back to the originally sized openings of the window. They're also proposing a rooftop bar, and they've constructed a frame on the top of the building to demonstrate heights, distance from the edge of the building, etc. So, and also, shouldn't forget, there's an adjoining property at 1202 that they also own, and the lobby from 1200 is going to open into the building, the first floor of 1202, so they can expand into that space. And the stair tower for the hotel will be built over the top of 1202 and coming into 1200 Main up along the, as you face the building's entrance on Main Street, it'll be to the left of the building over 1202 and the back 5 bays, which normally we would not, well, let me back up. This is going to take away several bays of windows along that side, but staff found this permissible and approvable because this is more of a utility side of the building. The building has a very small footprint that's built to the lot lines, and there's no good place to put a stair tower except really where they've located it. And the building footprint, again, itself is so small that I think putting the stair tower or circulation inside the building would appropriate a good deal of their square footage inside. So going back to the rooftop bar, that is largely the outstanding issue. We have a lot of details that we've recommended to be deferred to staff in terms of terracotta detailing, final detailing of windows and doors, which they're going back with an original configuration on street-facing doors. But the rooftop bar is the piece of the puzzle that we're still really working on. So I will leave it there, and Craig, would you like to come up? Craig Otto, the architect, is here, and he'll give you a little more detail on the building and the intentions, but staff's recommendation is for approval with details and design of the rooftop bar to come back to staff, if y'all are comfortable with that.
Hey, I'm Craig Otto. I'm the architect for the project.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
I do. So as Amy was describing, there's 3 basic pieces of the puzzle that we're doing for this building. One is a restoration of the exterior back to pretty much the way it was originally in 1913. The terracotta, the windows, just generally the color and shape of the exterior of the building. And that's being worked on now. If you go by, you'll see some scaffolding. They're doing repairs as they go. Fortunately, a lot of the terracotta is still in good shape. When the people in the 60s covered the building, they actually chipped off and broke off a whole bunch of the terracotta. It's heartbreaking when you go and see it. And we thought that should be a crime from now on, if you want to consider that in the DDRC. But they've taken off almost all the glass panels now. All of the terracotta has been exposed, and a lot of it is in good shape, thankfully, and they're repairing it as they go. So that's pretty easy to understand. And then also the replacement of all the windows are going back to a historic design that they were originally. The windows, looking at this view, the windows on this far right side and the windows on the back side facing north are existing, and they're just going to restore those. They're the original windows. But Main Street and Gervais Street, they're all going to be brand new windows, mimicking the historic windows that were there originally. The stair tower is also the second of the three components, which is required. We have to have the stair tower. It's a stair, it's an elevator. There's a lobby between the stair and the elevator of 8 feet by 8 feet, as small as we could get it. And then there's a linen chute room behind the elevator. The stair tower serves a number of purposes, one of which is the stairway. There is only one stairway inside the building as it exists now. So if you're on the 10th floor, 11th floor, you can only go down one stair to get out. And it's a skinny little stair. So we're building a new stair that's wider and built to code. They also already have 2 elevators in the building that are existing, but again, they're tiny, 4 or 5 feet by 4 feet. They're restoring those, and they are going to be operable, but we're adding a whole nother elevator in the stair tower that'll be a stretcher, big enough for a stretcher to fit in for code reasons. So the stair is required for code, the elevator is required for code, and additionally, the stair tower itself is all built out of concrete, and it's attached to this building to actually bring this building up to current structural codes for earthquakes, for seismic design. The building does not meet current codes, and the stair tower will stabilize it. It's got deep foundations underneath it. If you could go see what they're doing, it's really quite remarkable. They cut a hole in the floor of the adjacent building, 1202, broke everything out, went down to the red clay, dug that down 4 or 5 feet, and I'm talking, the size of a stair tower from that wall almost to that wall. And they're putting in helical piers down deep into the ground, 100 of them, to set the stair tower on top of. And then once that stair tower is constructed, the old building is kind of connected to it such that it's stabilized. So it's really a huge undertaking, which you can't hardly see that because the front of 1202 looks like it pretty much always has, so you would have no idea what's going on behind that facade. So that's the second of the 3 components that we're here for today, and then the third is the rooftop bar. If you had an opportunity to go up there, the very first time I went up there, and everybody that's gone up there since, when you get up onto the roof, which of course is a roof right now, there's nothing there except there is an elevator machine room. But when you stand looking at the State House, you'll see the best view of the State House that you've ever seen in your entire lives, because it's up high, but it's still not so high that you're looking down on the State House. You're still looking pretty much at it. And there's no glass in your way, so you're looking right over the edge of the roof at the building. I've taken pictures up there every time I've gone up there. The buildings across Maine, the large buildings, all have a view of the State House, but you're looking through glass. From the roof of this building, you have no glass to look through. You're looking straight at it. It's beautiful. So the owners want to capture that space and make it useful, and make it a place that every one of you would love to hang out in. I know I would. And go have a cocktail and go hang out if you drink. So the view is really stunning. What we've done with that rooftop bar is we've not tried to capture the whole roof with a structure. We've set the walls of that structure back from the Gervais Street side. I don't remember the exact number, but it's approximately 7 or 8 feet on sort of the right side. The wall curves around so that it is going away from the front as it approaches Main Street. And when it gets to Main Street, it's about 8 feet off of that side as well. But from the front left tippy top corner to the curved wall, it's 20 feet. So that wall gets moved back substantially from the main corner of the building, which is at Main and Gervais. And that outdoor area will be outdoor terrace, so people can stand out there and sit at a table or have a drink and talk and be standing there looking directly at the State House. Now, there will be a glass barrier. Right now, there's nothing, obviously, you can just look at it, but there will be a glass barrier so that people can't fall off, but they can still see through. And that barrier will be at least 6 feet tall. So it's about this high off the floor. But that's completely glass and will be, of course, see-through as much as glass is, depending on how the glare is. Behind that, the walls of the bar will be built with a finish of stucco, with a smooth finish, which will mimic the painted terracotta finish that's on the exterior of the building, which is basically a smooth finish. The staff has recommended we look at maybe making it a little more open, a little more transparent with more glass. We're not opposed to that at all. That just makes the patrons on the inside of the bar be able to have a better view looking out. Again, there's an indoor component of the rooftop bar where there is a bar and a little storage area and a cooler, perhaps for drinks and food, and a little small gathering area on the right side, looking at this picture over here. And then there's the outdoor component that is a terrace on the outside. I don't remember which direction to go. Okay, from right here. If you look up there, is that orange? Is that the flag? Okay, so you can see that there is a little bit of that structure sticking up. But in my opinion, when that structure is built and finished in stucco, white, or whatever color the building is, it's going to be the same color, and with some more glass to make it transparent, I don't think you'd even notice it. I don't think you'd even see it. So it's going to be very minimal visibly. As much as I respect all of the recommendations staff has made, I hesitate to try to push the bar back even further because we have pushed it back quite a bit when you look at the rounded edge coming away from that corner. And by the way, the owners have been very transparent with the city, with the staff from the very beginning of this renovation. They've asked them to come over and look at things all the time, look at the windows, look at the terracotta, come on inside, take a walk around. We've invited Todd Byers and his staff, the building official. We consulted him from the very beginning about what to do to bring the building up to code and what kind of things he might require or might not. The building will be fully sprinkled, fire alarm, all of the components that are required by the code to make it a safe building. And I don't think it's made much mention of, but the hotel, by the way, is going to be called Moxie. It's a Marriott brand. Very interesting rooms. They're smaller, very compact, much more compact than most hotel rooms. So it's got kind of a cool vibe to it. So the rooftop bar is a very important component that goes along with this sort of cool vibe that this whole hotel has. There is a bar on the first floor as well. And there's plans to be a bar down in the basement. So there's going to be lots of destinations within the building. And it's going to be a great change to this building that will give this building a new life for the next, hopefully, 100 years. So if you have any questions of me, please feel free.
Any questions? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. The bar itself, the structure on top of the roof, how high is that going to be from the finished floor to the top of the roof?
To the top of the roof, it's about...
Rooftop bar.
Yes, sir, it's about 10 and a half feet. The floor of the rooftop bar is set a little below the parapet. So the parapet wall will actually only be about 6 inches higher than the floor because we have, just for various reasons, we had to raise that floor. You have to get drainage underneath it, and we were tying it into the existing elevator machine rooms up there. But the rooftop bar roof will be approximately 10 and a half feet off of that floor. Interestingly, there's an existing elevator machine room up there. Let's see. And that existing elevator machine room is taller, way taller than our new. Here you can see. No, that's not it. Yeah, there's the stair tower on this side on the left picture. That stair tower is taller than where our rooftop bar will be. And I don't know where the drawing is, but the exterior elevations. Yeah, so anyway, my point being is that there is an existing structure on that roof that's the elevator machine room. Go one more, let's see. Yeah, okay. So at the top right, you see there's three levels, sort of. There's the top of the rooftop bar, then right in the middle to the right, there's a higher structure, that's the elevator machine room, and in the back is the stair tower that is on the exact opposite side of the building. So it won't be as visible as this drawing shows because this doesn't show any perspective. So our rooftop bar roof level is lower than the existing structure that's on the roof now at the elevator machine room by a few feet, 4 feet, I think, maybe. But approximately 10 and a half feet to answer your question specifically.
Did you say the bar sits 7 feet back from the side?
That, in this picture on that right corner, I sent Amy the numbers and I've already forgotten what they were, but I think it was like 7 feet 9 inches, so it's somewhere around 7 to 8 feet. And then around on the Main Street side, it's set off of Main Street about 7 or 8 feet as well.
And what was the material on the rooftop bar structure?
We're thinking stucco in order to give it a smooth, paintable surface that mimics the rest of the material down below. There's not any real architectural adornment or features for that rooftop bar. We have a little bit of a horizontal roof line right at the roof, but there's not intended to be any adornment on that. We want it to sort of disappear, to sort of blend in and go away. The terracotta and windows of the existing structure are what's going to draw your eye. You're not going to even notice the rooftop bar until you go, oh, cool, there's a rooftop bar up there, let's go. But other than that, it should be relatively unnoticeable.
And if I was standing at the State House looking towards the building, so in that picture on the right, you would see glass. Is that correct?
There's already some glass panels in our plan, and staff is suggesting we consider more glass panels. The facade facing the State House, and we're good with that. We're fine with that. Right now, there are a number of glass panels there now, and right now the plan is to have an outdoor portion of the bar that is sort of an indoor-outdoor, so it's right in line with the exterior wall. And they have these flip-up garage doors that the garage door, instead of rolling up, it kind of folds up. And then you can sit at the bar, and they can roll these up, and you can talk to people inside and see people outside. But of course, in bad weather, you can shut the doors. So we have 5 or 6 of those garage doors in the plan, as well as a storefront glass panel over here, a storefront glass panel here, another one over here. So there's not a whole lot more glass panel we could add, but we could add more.
I have another question. Off the roof now, we're down near the basement where the wig was.
Yes, sir. The plan is to leave that stairway, the entrance to WIG, will remain pretty much exactly like it is now.
So it's going to stay?
It's going to stay. Not, the WIG won't stay, but a place to go have a drink or a little snack similar to the WIG will be there.
Are you going to do anything? Because I was walking up and down that sidewalk, and I noticed the roof panel, the metal panel had collapsed a little bit, like people walking on top of it.
They probably have over time. We haven't actually discussed that. I'm sure that they won't want, after this beautiful restoration, I'm sure they won't want a bunch of damaged metal panels on there, so I'm sure that there would be some restoration of that. There aren't any plans to change that because it is watertight, and we'd like to leave it that way. We are going to renovate the sidewalk. I think that's going to be something that the city is working together with the owners on Gervais Street. Between the Gervais Street curb and our building, it's an ugly sidewalk. It's in bad shape and very unattractive. And we hope to renovate that sidewalk as well.
What about the black gate? I think that there's a barrier in between where the wig currently.
Yes, there's a sort of a fence there to keep people from falling over into the stairwell.
Is that all staying the same?
That's planned to stay the same as it is, yes. Yeah, that really won't change. That entrance won't really you won't see any real changes there. And it's still needed for us to have exiting, not just to enter, but also to get out in emergency. We need it, so it's got to stay.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I have just a comment, actually. I just want to applaud the owner and you for restoring this beautiful landmark to downtown Columbia again. It's just going to be so fabulous to have it back to its original beauty. And I really appreciate the attention to making it coming back the way it should be. So I really appreciate it. I agree that first of all, we don't have enough rooftop bars in Columbia, South Carolina, so I think that and having the view of the State House is going to be fabulous. I'm not as concerned about how far back it needs to be. The more we keep pushing it back, the more it's going to be smaller and not something that we can enjoy in inclement weather and things like that. So I think if you're willing to open it up a little bit more with a little bit more glass, perhaps below those windows that are going to be operable, maybe there's fixed glass or something, just to make it a little more transparent, I think then that would kind of alleviate it. But I love that you're going to be matching the material as closely as possible, at least in coloration, and it'll look a lot better than what is typically was there to begin with that was higher. So I'm not as inclined to have you continue to minimize it as I am to minimize its solidness, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for that. By the way, thank you on behalf of the owners for your compliment. I'm going to give all the credit to them. Rick Patel, who changed the Palmetto building into their Sheraton, took this on, and I thought he was crazy when he decided to do it. And he started tearing into it and breaking things apart to see what was there, and he had such an excitement for it. He got me excited about it, and he's really doing a great job with it. So thank you for that compliment.
Any other commissioners? Okay. Well, we'll have to open up to public comment, and then we'll continue. If any other questions for the applicant, I think we're good.
No, other than I echo what Mary Beth said. I think you've done a wonderful job, and I'm sure you'll continue to do so. I think it's an asset to Columbia, and commend your efforts and the owner.
Thank you. Yeah, again, from what it was just recently with all those glass panels on it, and they tore up the terracotta to trying to return it back to its original, is going to be really something else. And by the way, we've been working directly with all the agencies involved in this, from the federal level, state level, city level, and even county level, to make sure they're all happy with what we're doing with the addition of the stair tower, the addition of the rooftop, and the restoration on the outside. They're all involved, and they're all giving us guidance and telling us what we should and shouldn't do. So, again, it's been a transparent process the whole time.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, thank you, Craig, that since we're working with the State Historic Preservation Office on tax credits, we anticipate that we'll all be working together on the rooftop bar. They had some comments on that as well, so. But it's been a great process, and I do too applaud the owners. They've tried to involve me every step of the way and get feedback, and they're really doing a wonderful job with it. So,
Does the final approval of the Bailey bill come before us or not? I don't think so.
this is preliminary.
I mean,
Yeah,
does the final one?
final is us, is staff. Yeah, y'all get the whole ball rolling and we finish it up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we'll hear if there's any comments from the public. All right, with that, I'll turn it back to the commissioners. I'll open up the floor for a motion and a second. Now, I want you to have a microphone.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion, but actually without the fourth bullet regarding the rooftop bar to avoid any further minimization of the visibility.
Okay, so why don't you
Yeah, I can read it off.
read your entire motion, how you want to word it, and
Sure.
then if we need to have comment on it, we'll do that.
All right. So I make a motion to grant preliminary certification for the Bailey bill with the following conditions: details of windows, front doors, any canopies to be worked on with staff, shop drawings of the profiles repair and installation, methods of terracotta panels to come to staff for review and approval. Details of terracotta design in arched openings at mezzanine level to be approved by staff. The project meeting or exceeding the 20% investment threshold requirements for qualified rehabilitation expenses for the Bailey Bill. All work meeting the standards for work as outlined in section 17-2.5. All other details, including signage, defer to staff.
Will you please just state the address of the property in your motion too?
At 1202 Main Street.
Okay, I think the order now would be, I'd probably have to take a second before we do an amendment. So pretty much, okay, so I'll open it up for a second. Anybody want a second?
I'll second that.
All right, then I'm going to offer an amendment. I think we still need to keep in there staff to work with the applicants on revised approach to the rooftop bar, because we still don't know what that is yet. But I think the staff has heard the commissioner's thoughts of things we would like to see accomplished on that. So I'm comfortable with just saying staff to work with applicants on revised approach to rooftop bar, to staff's, deferring that to staff. That would be my amendment.
And I would second that and just not limit them to a size, but still keep that recommendation.
Okay.
Second that.
So we had a motion, we had a second, we amended it, we had a second to the amendment.
We did have a second to the
We
amendment?
did.
So it includes
Commissioner
that
Jenkins
fourth
did, yeah.
bulletin as it's written.
Did I get the protocol right?
I think so. Congratulations.
Happy about that one? All right, so with that, I'll turn it over.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham? Mr. Dinkins?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
And Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, go to other business. Is there any
Yes,
other
we have
business?
one item under other business. We promise we won't keep you long, but we actually have everyone here today, so we would like to do a group picture.
Motion to adjourn.
Nice try.
All right, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
But stay.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.